the unfortunate aspect of the disease of addiction. It doesn't matter if you're a streetwalker or if you're, Robin Williams or Lamar Odom. The pain is very similar. It is very universal.
Mike, they're getting very emotional there, talking about addiction with Dr. Drew Pinsky on his HLN show. That was 3 years ago. And you've credited Dr. Drew with really helping save your life when you were in the throes of your addiction.
Absolutely. Before we ever became professional partners in radio, he was the head of addiction medicine at a recovery center that absolutely was instrumental in helping me, save my own life.
Well, Dr. Drew, whose radio show, Dr. Drew Midday Live, airs on 790 KABC Radio. He joins us now from New York to provide insights on Demi Lovato's addiction battle and her overdose scare. And Dr. Drew, we should say you haven't treated her. You've met with her, though. But tell us more about, when we heard yesterday overdose, I think people immediately, they thought, oh, my gosh, did she die? What exactly is an overdose?
When people talk about all kinds of different things when they say overdose. Really what we're talking about is something that suppresses respiration, and that's what can lead to people dying. You can alcohol overdose, you can benzodiazepine overdose, you can opiate overdose. Now, what we heard was a rumor of heroin. The family has since questioned this. When I heard heroin, I thought, does this not fit? Mike, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, too. It didn't fit with her syndrome. But what I did know is that I've heard the footage from the fire department where they report they've come upon an unconscious female, and they give Narcan always when they come upon somebody unconscious. Now, the question is, did the Narcan revive her? It would tell us whether or not this was an opiate overdose or not.
Why did you say it didn't fit, and what was your experience?
Well, and I mean, Drew, correct me if I'm in any way wrong, but to me, as someone who's been very open about her eating disorder and bipolar, that to me says stimulants.
But here's the deal about Demi Lovato. Anyone who's ever met her will agree with me. This is a lovely person. She has been a source of inspiration for other people, being so forthcoming and destigmatizing about addiction and mental illness, and I applaud this woman. And because she's had a relapse, it doesn't change anything. It's a chronic illness. Mike, you can testify to the fact that today could be your last day of sobriety. You don't know with this illness. It's very cunning. Absolutely. And when she gets back in the game, which she will be even more of an inspiration to people who struggle with this stuff.
And what would be her best course of action in your professional opinion? I could say, anecdotally, but what do you think is necessary for her right now in her recovery?
She needs to get back in her mutual aid societies, get back into her commitments, reassemble her mental health team, and just get back in the game. Get going again. She'll be fine.
She's also touring right now. How does that complicate, when you're out on the road and you have to perform on a stage and you need to be up all the time, how much added pressure is there to be that person?
Yes, Natalie, that I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is the #1 problem. When I have treated celebrities in the past, they want to go back to work prematurely. The people around them make lots of money from them. They have lots of commitments. They love their work. And almost without exception, they go back too soon. They need to focus on their health and recovery. And when their team decides it's time to go back to work, then you do so in sort of an incremental fashion.
Drew, she's also been open not only about addiction, but about her eating disorder and problems with self-harm. Yeah. How common is it to see this kind of like polydiagnosis with addicts?
Very, very common. We used to call it the trifecta. It was eating, cutting, and substance. It goes together. It kind of says trauma. Again, childhood trauma. We don't know what kind of childhood trauma she may have had. These are challenging. These are confounding factors on the disease of addiction. They have to be managed, each of them independently and each of them thoroughly. With addiction, it gets a little dicey because you have to have the addiction. There's arguments about when to time the treatments, of the other conditions, but the addiction has to be managed and stabilized first. Then you can get on to the other conditions. But it takes a long time, and this is to fully return to health and a thriving life, which she has every reason to believe she should. It takes a long time and a lot of work.
Dr. Drew, thanks so much for all your expertise, as always. Thank you.
You're the best, man.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Well, coming up, Demi doing what she does best, the AMA performance that transformed her career. We're going to show it to you next. Tomorrow on Access, the latest information on the condition of Demi Lovato. Plus, she's walked in Demi Lovato's shoes. Don't miss Jolie Fisher's revelations about addiction. That's tomorrow. This segment is sponsored by Retail Me Not, yours for the savings. Time to get back to school.